Before battle, knights sought divine protection in the most tangible way possible, by swearing oaths on holy relics. These relics could be anything from a saint's bone to a fragment of the true cross itself. The belief was absolute. Breaking an oath sworn upon a sacred relic condemned the soul to eternal damnation. Some knights even carried relics into battle, sewn into tunics or hidden within scabbards, believing their faith would shield them more surely than steel. It wasn't just superstition, it was conviction. A knight's word was sacred, bound not only by honour, but by the will of heaven. Before being dubbed a knight, a young squire underwent a strange and solemn ritual, the knight's bath. This was no mere act of cleanliness. The candidate bathed in perfume water overnight, symbolising purification of both body and soul. Candles flickered around the room as the squire kept silent vigil beside his armour, praying for courage, strength, and divine grace. By dawn he emerged reborn, cleansed of his former self, ready to bear the sword and uphold the chivalric code. In a world ruled by both sin and steel, this ritual marked the moment when a boy became a living instrument of faith and warfare. At dawn, before an audience of nobles and clergy, the lord who performed the dubbing struck the squire lightly on the neck with the flat of a sword, the symbolic collet. Then came the most intimate gesture of the ceremony, the knight's kiss. A sign of trust, loyalty, and brotherhood, it sealed the sacred bond between knight and lord. It was not a gesture of affection, but of unity, an oath that they would live, fight, and if needed die in each other's service. This moment of human closeness amid the pomp of war showed that the code of knighthood was as much about love, of duty, of God, of honour, as it was about battle. Knighthood was also bound by a darker kind of loyalty, the blood oath. In some accounts, knights swore eternal brotherhood by mixing drops of their own blood into wine and drinking it together. These blood feasts created an unbreakable bond, a vow that neither death nor distance could sever. The church frowned on such pagan echoes, but the practice persisted in secret among knights who trusted their comrades more than kings. It was loyalty beyond law, born in blood, sealed in faith. To the untrained eye, a knight's shield was merely decoration, but to those who could read it, it was a book of secrets. Colours, animals, shapes, each bore hidden meaning. A red background signified courage, black meant vengeance or sorrow. A lion symbolised ferocity, while a broken spear could mean unfinished battle or a vow of revenge. Some noble families even embedded secret shame into their designs, reminders of betrayal or lost honour that only insiders could recognise. Heraldry was not just art, it was identity, legacy, and confession, written in colour and steel. For the wealthiest knights, faith came with them, literally. Many retained personal chaplains who travelled beside them in campaigns. These priests blessed their weapons, heard their confessions before battle, and sometimes even mediated with enemies under truce flags. They were spiritual bodyguards, ensuring the knight's soul stayed pure while his hands were stained with blood. It was a strange paradox of medieval warfare, faith and violence marching side by side, each believing the other justified its cause. Life for a knight was not only dangerous on the battlefield, it was haunted in the dark. Superstition ran deep. Many knights stitched small charms, prayers, or runic symbols into their bedding or underclothes. They believed this would ward off demons that preyed on weary soldiers in their sleep, the so-called night riders, or spirits of the unburied dead. In a world without medicine or psychology, dreams were seen as portals to the divine or the damned. A knight's rest, it seemed, was guarded as fiercely as his castle walls. We think of duels as fights to the death, but medieval trial by combat was more often a test of divine judgment. Each participant prayed before the fight, believing God would grant victory to the innocent. If one combatant was clearly beaten but not dead, the fight stopped, and the loser was declared guilty. But not all duels were noble. Some were staged by desperate peasants, or even women, claiming their innocence against terrible accusations. It was brutal justice, but in a world without certainty, people believed that God's will would show through steel. Spurs were more than just tools for riding, they were symbols of rank and pride. Golden spurs meant knighthood, silver or bronze denoted lesser standing. If a knight disgraced himself through cowardice or betrayal, his spurs were hacked off publicly with an axe. It was a humiliation worse than death. To lose one's spurs meant losing honour, and in the chivalric world, honour was everything. Though we picture knights as men of battle, many were men of words and prayer. They wrote poems to their ladies, treatises on morality, and meditations on sin and salvation. Some, like Geoffrey de Charny, tried to define the perfect knight, balancing courage, humility, and faith. To be a true knight wasn't only to fight well, it was to live rightly, to embody strength and virtue in equal measure. Their world was violent, yes, but it was also deeply philosophical, poetic, and spiritual.